What if I told you that the real reason senior men don't seem to care about women anymore has nothing to do with anger, bitterness, or losing interest in love, and everything to do with something most women never saw coming? Right now, thousands of men over 50 and 60 are quietly stepping back. Not because they can't date. Not because they're incapable. Not because they've given up on connection. But because they've reached a level of clarity that changes everything. And once you see what they see, you can't unsee it. If you're a man in that stage of life, what I'm about to say might feel uncomfortably accurate. Almost like someone finally found the words for thoughts you've kept to yourself for years. For most senior men, this shift didn't happen overnight. It wasn't one bad breakup. It wasn't one argument. It wasn't one moment of disappointment where they threw their hands up and said, "I'm done." It was gradual. It was years of observing. Years of trying. Years of giving. Years of watching how relationships really function, especially modern ones. Over time, perspective changes. And with age, clarity sharpens. You start noticing patterns you ignored when you were younger. Behaviors that once felt normal now feel heavy. Dynamics that once seemed romantic now feel exhausting. You begin to understand what truly adds peace to your life and what slowly drains it. Most men don't talk about this. Senior men especially. They're not posting emotional speeches online. They're not making dramatic announcements. They don't create viral hashtags about their feelings. They just quietly withdraw. If someone asks, they keep it simple. "I'm fine. I'm focusing on myself. I'm not looking right now." But underneath those calm responses is something much deeper. Senior men reach a point where their emotional energy feels too valuable to waste. Their peace feels too precious to disturb. And their time feels too limited to gamble on chaos. One of the biggest realizations that changes everything is this: life without romantic drama is incredibly peaceful. After 50 or 60, priorities shift. A man no longer feels the need to prove himself. He doesn't need constant validation. He doesn't measure his worth by how desirable he is or whether a woman approves of him. Instead, he begins valuing something far more important: mental and emotional stability. When you were younger, you chase love because you think it completes you. You believe that relationship status defines success. You tolerate things because you think passion requires sacrifice. But a man who has lived long enough understands something different. Love can be beautiful. It can be fulfilling. But it can also come with stress, expectations, responsibility, and emotional turbulence. And at some point, he starts asking a very honest question: is it worth it? For decades, men were taught to pursue, impress, provide, protect, sacrifice. To carry burdens quietly. To show strength at all times. But somewhere around midlife, something changes. The mask drops. A man realizes he has spent most of his life giving, supporting others, solving problems, trying to keep everyone happy. And in many cases, he didn't receive the same effort in return. This isn't about blame. It's about awareness. Society often focuses heavily on women's emotions, women's needs, women's expectations. But there's a quiet truth that rarely gets acknowledged: many senior men feel unseen. Not unloved. Unseen. Their sacrifices went unnoticed. Their loyalty was assumed. Their effort became expected rather than appreciated. And instead of fighting for recognition, instead of arguing for validation, they slowly stop investing emotionally. Not out of anger. Out of exhaustion. Another major shift happens when a man finally understands the difference between companionship and chaos. When he was younger, he tolerated red flags, mood swings, emotional manipulation, constant arguments, inconsistent behavior. He convinced himself that love meant enduring everything. But a 60-year-old man isn't playing those games. He knows peace matters more than passion. Stability matters more than excitement. Respect matters more than attraction. And the moment a relationship begins to disturb his peace unnecessarily, something switches off internally. He may stay polite. He may stay friendly. But emotionally, he's already stepped back. Modern dating also plays a role in this shift. Many older men look at today's dating culture and feel like it's no longer designed for them. Expectations have changed. Roles feel blurred. Dynamics feel transactional at times. What once felt natural, mutual respect, balanced effort, complementary energy, can now feel uneven. Some senior men feel that they're expected to provide, protect, plan, initiate, and lead, while receiving little softness, appreciation, or loyalty in return. And here's the key difference: they're no longer afraid to walk away from that imbalance. They've lived long enough to recognize when effort is mutual and when it's one-sided. And they refuse to sign up for a dynamic that drains them. As men age, something becomes incredibly clear: peace is the ultimate luxury. A younger man wants excitement. A middle-aged man wants stability. A senior man wants peace. He wants someone who adds to his life, not someone who complicates it. Someone who brings calm, not confusion. Someone who respects boundaries instead of constantly testing them. When a man reaches that level of clarity, his standards change. He stops caring about superficial beauty. He stops chasing flirtation. He stops getting distracted by temporary attention. He looks for one thing: emotional calm. And if it's not there, he simply isn't interested. Another powerful realization senior men come to is this: they don't need a woman to be happy. They may enjoy companionship. They may appreciate connection. But their identity is no longer tied to being a husband, boyfriend, or a provider. They've built careers, raised families, survived loss, learned hard lessons, developed hobbies, built routines, found personal passions. They understand something younger men often don't: happiness is self-created. It doesn't depend on relationship status. And once a man understands that, his entire energy shifts. He's no longer chasing completion. He's choosing alignment. And that's where everything begins to change. There's something else that often gets misunderstood about senior men. They love deeply, but they detach silently. When a woman thinks, "he just stopped caring," the truth is often the opposite. At one point, he cared too much. He invested too much. He overlooked too many warning signs. He sacrificed parts of himself to keep things smooth. And somewhere along the way, he learned. Senior men aren't cold. They're careful. They're not uninterested. They're selective. They're not bitter. They're protective of their peace. And once a man becomes selective, he naturally loses interest in superficial connections and temporary relationships. Small talk feels empty. Drama feels childish. Mixed signals feel like a waste of time. He becomes more introspective, more spiritual, more focused on what actually matters. Another reason senior men step back is because they no longer tolerate disrespect, especially the subtle kind. Many older men have experienced years of being told their feelings don't matter, that their opinions are outdated, that their masculinity is flawed, that they should just deal with it. But with age comes self-respect. A senior man refuses to be treated like a backup plan. He refuses to be someone's emotional safety net while she keeps her options open. He refuses to be valued only for what he provides financially. If he senses entitlement, constant criticism, or quiet disrespect, he doesn't argue. He doesn't try to convince. He doesn't compete. He simply withdraws. And what surprises many women is this: senior men don't come back. When peace is broken at this stage of life, the cost feels too high to repair it. There's also what I call the loneliness paradox. People assume older men are afraid of being alone. But many discover something unexpected: solitude feels freeing. Silence becomes refreshing. Waking up without tension feels like a gift. Living on your own schedule, eating what you want, traveling when you want, spending money how you want, it feels like oxygen. Many women talk about independence. Senior men quietly live it. They cook for themselves, travel alone, develop routines, go to the gym, read, fish, walk, pray, build, learn, rest, and eventually they fall in love with the simplicity of that freedom. Once a man genuinely enjoys his own company, he becomes extremely selective about who he lets disrupt it. He's not avoiding connection. He's protecting comfort. At this stage, he no longer feels the need to impress anyone. He doesn't chase. He doesn't beg. He doesn't perform. He doesn't sacrifice his peace just to feel desired. He understands something fundamental: the right woman will meet him halfway without forcing it. She won't require endless proof. She won't demand constant performance. She won't treat the relationship like a test he has to pass. She'll bring softness, appreciation, emotional steadiness. And if that energy isn't there, he doesn't feel compelled to pursue. Another hard-earned realization many senior men come to is this: not every woman is looking for love. Some are looking for security. Some are looking for comfort. Some are looking for attention. Some are looking for financial stability. And after enough life experience, a man can feel the difference almost immediately. Many older men have been in relationships where they gave everything: time, money, loyalty, effort, only to realize the investment wasn't mutual. After enough of those experiences, instinct sharpens. He becomes more observant, more cautious, less impulsive. He no longer gives blindly. He watches actions instead of listening to words. He pays attention to consistency instead of promises. He looks for reciprocity instead of chemistry alone. And once he reaches that level of awareness, he never goes back to naive giving. He knows his value. If someone doesn't recognize it, he doesn't argue. He walks away. Senior men also notice how relationship dynamics shift with age. As women grow older, some become more guarded, more selective, sometimes more demanding. Meanwhile, many men become simpler. They want ease, friendship, companionship. A senior man doesn't want to feel interrogated. He doesn't want to feel tested. He doesn't want to feel molded into someone else's ideal version. He wants to be accepted as he is. At 60 or 70, a man isn't interested in being fixed. He has survived too much, built too much, and learned too much to allow someone to reshape him. Younger relationships often involve growth through friction. But older men don't want friction. They want harmony. If a woman approaches him like he's a project, he disconnects internally. Peace does not come from being someone else's renovation. There's also a deeper shift that happens when a man becomes aware of life's fragility. By the time he reaches his senior years, he has likely experienced loss. Parents, friends, opportunities, health scares, regrets. Moments like these change priorities. He no longer wastes energy arguing for ego. He no longer fights battles that don't matter. He doesn't force connections that feel strained. When you become aware that time is limited, you start choosing differently. You choose happiness over obligation. You choose calm over chaos. You choose authenticity over performance. And many senior men realize that certain relationships, especially unhealthy ones, don't enhance their remaining years. They reduce the quality of them. That realization creates emotional detachment. Not because they don't care about women, but because they care about their remaining time more. There's also a financial reality that few people talk about openly. When you're young, money feels renewable. You believe you'll recover from losses. You assume you can rebuild. But as you age, financial stability becomes sacred. Many senior men spent decades working, sacrificing, investing, and planning for retirement. They endured stress to build something stable. They're not interested in entering relationships that introduce financial imbalance, dependency, or pressure. If a man senses that he's being valued more for his wallet than his character, his interest disappears instantly. The moment affection feels transactional, attraction fades. It's not bitterness. It's instinct. A senior man wants partnership, not responsibility disguised as romance. Another powerful shift comes from emotional boundaries. When he was younger, he might have tolerated guilt trips, silent treatment, passive-aggressive comments, emotional manipulation. But older men shut that down quickly. They prefer direct communication, calm discussion, mature dialogue. If a woman argues just to win, he withdraws. If she uses emotion as a weapon, he walks away. If she creates confusion where clarity could exist, he loses interest. Modern dating often feels emotionally chaotic. And senior men avoid chaos like a disease. They want simplicity. They want honesty. They want emotional steadiness. If those qualities aren't present, they disengage quietly. And perhaps the most powerful shift of all is emotional self-sufficiency. Younger men often rely heavily on women for emotional validation, for comfort, for reassurance. Older men learn how to regulate themselves. They develop routines that ground them: morning walks, workouts, reading, building things, prayer, meditation, music, time with close friends. Their emotional life becomes stable and internal. And when a man no longer depends on a woman to soothe him, he stops tolerating emotional drama. Emotional independence is why so many senior men feel genuinely content alone. They don't feel empty without a partner. They feel peaceful. And once peace becomes the baseline, anything that disrupts it feels unnecessary. That's when caring shifts from chasing to choosing. There's also the weight of expectations. Many senior men slowly stop caring about women because they're exhausted from feeling like relationships require constant performance. Performance emotionally. Performance financially. Performance socially. Performance romantically. For most of their lives, men were expected to be steady, strong, dependable, driven, expressive but not too expressive, protective but not controlling, generous but not weak. They were supposed to provide, solve problems, plan the future, stay calm under pressure, and never crack. That's a heavy script to carry for 30 or 40 years. And when a man finally puts that script down, the relief is enormous. He doesn't want to be on all the time anymore. He doesn't want to constantly prove he's worthy. He doesn't want to feel like he's being evaluated every time he speaks, spends, or expresses emotion. At this stage in life, he wants to relax. He wants to be human. He wants to be imperfect without feeling judged. If a relationship feels like another stage where he has to audition for approval, he opts out. Not dramatically. Just quietly. There's also the growing awareness of imbalance in modern dating. For decades, many men accepted that they would be the ones to initiate, to plan, to pay, to impress, to pursue. But with age comes perspective. A senior man can see clearly when effort is mutual and when it's one-sided. And the modern dating environment often feels, to him, like a one-way interview process. He's expected to demonstrate value. He's expected to prove financial stability. He's expected to lead conversations, organize outings, and maintain momentum. Meanwhile, in many cases, he feels that simply being present is considered enough on the other side. That imbalance becomes glaring with age. And senior men don't chase imbalance. They don't fight it. They don't complain loudly about it. They simply disengage. If effort isn't equal, emotions shut down naturally. There's also something deeper happening internally. As men age, many become more reflective. They think about legacy, about meaning, about how they want to spend the final chapters of their lives. They care more about inner peace than outer validation. Arguments that once felt intense now feel pointless. Drama that once felt exciting now feels exhausting. A peaceful home becomes more valuable than a passionate but unstable connection. A calm mind becomes more important than romantic highs and lows. Many senior men realize they don't need someone to complete them. They need someone who doesn't complicate them. And if that person doesn't show up, they are genuinely okay being alone. Another unexpected shift is self-love. That word gets used often, but for many men, it comes late in life. For years, they prioritized others. Family, work, responsibility, obligation. They hid stress. They buried pain. They handled pressure quietly. But with age, something changes. They start honoring their own needs. They say no without guilt. They leave environments that feel draining. They set boundaries without over-explaining. They choose situations that feel good instead of just necessary. And once a man truly respects himself, he cannot chase someone who disrespects him. It becomes impossible. He would rather walk alone than shrink to fit into someone else's expectations. This is why it can appear as though senior men don't care anymore. But the truth is more nuanced. They don't stop caring about women. They stop caring about the wrong dynamics. They stop caring about negativity, entitlement, manipulation, and constant conflict. They stop caring about relationships that demand endless effort without appreciation. They stop caring about being valued primarily for what they provide rather than who they are. They stop caring about situations that waste their time, money, and emotional stability. What they actually want is simple: connection with calm, affection with respect, companionship with gratitude, conversation without competition, support without control. They want emotional maturity. They want softness paired with strength. They want someone who understands that peace is not boring, it's sacred. And here's the part many women don't expect. Senior men are willing to walk away. Not to prove a point. Not to teach a lesson. Not to manipulate. But because they genuinely prefer peace over partnership if partnership threatens it. That's evolution. That's maturity. That's self-awareness. They know what they bring to the table: experience, loyalty, protection, wisdom, emotional steadiness, mature love. But they also know their limits. They won't argue endlessly to be understood. They won't beg for respect. They won't compete for attention. They won't return to chaos once they've experienced calm. And once a man reaches that internal shift, something permanent happens. He doesn't chase. He doesn't perform. He doesn't try to convince someone to value him. He simply moves forward, with or without a woman beside him. So if you've noticed senior men becoming quieter, more reserved, less reactive, less eager to pursue, understand what's really happening. It's not indifference. It's discernment. It's not bitterness. It's boundaries. It's not fear of love. It's protection of peace. And in the final chapter of life, peace becomes priceless. For many senior men, that realization changes everything. And once they reach that mindset, they never go back.